Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where we talk about cars and trucks. Today we'll be covering what are some of the hidden costs when buying a project car. Maybe you've been out riding or maybe you've been online searching and you've seen a good car or what you think is a good car at a good price. And like, well, hey, I can do all the work myself, save a ton of money and this would be a great project. But there are a lot of hidden costs that will cost you a lot of money or even blow past your budget 3 or 4 times if you're not careful. So let's go ahead and dive into them. Now this is a big one, so make sure you're taking notes. And this is rust, right? Any cars that have a ton of rust, cars, trucks, whatever you're buying that has a ton of rust, you might want to leave it alone because you can end up replacing the floors, the frame. The car might just not be worth it. You probably can find one in a lot better shape with a lot less rust because you have to remember that some areas of the country, like the northern states, cars get rusted super quick. It don't matter how old or new the car is. It can still have a lot of rust and just might want to stay away from it. Next, we're going to be talking about parts and components. So let's say you run across a project car and it needs maybe some wheels, maybe it needs a starter, alternator, suspension, right? You're thinking, well, I can do all the labor myself. And then, the parts shouldn't be that expensive. But depending on what kind of car it is, parts can be super expensive or even harder to find depending on how old the vehicle is, right? So if you're trying to find a special set of wheels, if they're hard to find, they're going to be more expensive, right? If you have a lot of parts, you think, well, it shouldn't cost that much. But then as you start looking, maybe you need to buy the OEM parts and not just any aftermarket. So now it's going to cost you even more if you have to get the original factory type part. Another thing you have to be aware of when buying these parts or project vehicles is that some project vehicles may have already been modified, and to get it to your liking, you may have to get it back to the original, right? So if it has a lot of aftermarket parts on it, once again, you'll be trying to replace those with the original parts, and that'll run your budget up as well. So some people are saying, well, hey, it's not a big deal. I found the car, I can get all the parts at this right here. Also be aware of the parts that you're replacing and the parts that may need to be replaced while you're in there doing that work. So if you're changing the brakes out, you may get in there and realize, well, hey, the brakes need to be replaced and the rotors need to be replaced as well. And you didn't factor in buying 4 rotors or drum brakes, whatever you're looking at. So keep that in mind as well. The big one out as well. This is something I myself have been guilty of, and I know a lot of other people have, thinking you can get stuff done, by saving money, by doing it yourself, but what you don't factor in is the time, how long it takes to get it done and the delays you may run across. So you may get out there and say, well, hey, I can do this work myself. It'll save me hundreds of dollars. But then when you get out there and start doing it, it may take you a week or even longer to get it done. For instance, if you're buying an older vehicle, maybe you're trying to take, let's say you removing an engine or you're doing some kind of work to it and some of the bolts start breaking, right? That can cost you a fortune because now you got to take time out to remove those seized bolts or broken bolts, stuff that's going to take a lot longer. So make sure you factor in that, I know you may have like a time frame. Let's say it could take you a month to get the vehicle done, but maybe add an extra month or 2 on top just to, and say, hey, is it still worth it if it takes over a month to do that or over a week to get that car ready to go? Another thing that may run you over your time frame is waiting on parts. So once again, if you have to order those parts and if it takes a while to get those parts, a project that you may think would only take a month or 2 may end up taking 4 to 6 months or even longer if it takes a long time to get those parts, especially if you're trying to get the parts, a certain color match. Let's say you need a fender and you need a red fender and you don't want to repaint the car, so you need to find another red fender. It could take you a long time. You're trying to search or you're trying to wait until one comes up available so you can just put it on and match it. Also, when it comes to time, this is a big one as well. If you say, well, hey, I could take it to a shop and they can probably have it done in no time, right? So some shops, let's say like the paint shop, they may tell you we could have you done in a week. But when you get there, you drop the car off and 2 weeks have passed. So always make sure you give yourself more than enough time for these projects. Okay, next we're going to be talking about operating costs. This is like nickel and dime fluids, right? If you got to buy oil, brake fluid, other fluids, transmission fluid, stuff like that that you didn't account for. If you're doing a rear differential, you got to buy that fluid as well. That can run your budget up. Also, what tools worked on one car might not work on the other car. So now you got to buy more tools. Any mechanic knows that one set of tools don't fit all vehicles. So you're going to have to, you need some shorter tools, some different tools. So keep that in mind. Also, you may need some computer equipment as far as programmers or tablets that'll tell you what's wrong with the vehicle. So always keep that in mind as well when buying a project car, because if you don't, you're going to run into a big issue when it comes time to work on these cars. You're like, well, I thought these tools would work, but now I got to go buy other tools, and now those tools are super expensive because tools are not cheap. Sometimes you might not want to buy the tools if they're super expensive, and you realize, well, I'm only going to use this tool one time, and then it's going to cost me $50 or $100 or whatever. And that's part of having project cars or working on cars, is sometimes you might have to spend a lot of money on one tool that you're only going to use one time. Now I'm going over this video with you guys just to say, now after you calculate and you make sure you got every base covered, was it still worth the time and effort and money that you spent in the vehicle? Or could you have went and got another vehicle and worked on? Or could you have even gotten that vehicle already running or in the condition you would have already liked at the same price? Because you don't want to get a vehicle and overspend on it and you realize, well, it's a $5,000 vehicle. You bought it for $2,500 thinking you can do the work for $1,000, but you end up spending actually another $2,500, and you could have just bought the vehicle already running. And especially if you get older vehicles, they can show up cost you a lot of money. But other than that, thank you for tuning in and watching the video. The next one, I'll probably try to go over how to save money on these project vehicles. But leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will catch you on the next one.